This happened just yesterday, so it's still fresh in my mind. I'm not sure what to think about it because it was just so bizarre and unbelievable. I might have just been sleep deprived. So, last night at maybe 11 o'clock, I was walking around my block because it was a nice night. My town is relatively safe, so I didn't feel in any danger. I'd been walking for about around 15 minutes or so when a pale woman with blonde hair and a white dress caught my eye from across the street. She was about my height and looked to be around my age too. When I first noticed her, I didn't pay much attention, but when I circled the block again, she was on the same street just a couple feet in front of me. She was standing on the curb staring at cars passing by. It was a main road, so even at that late hour, people were still driving on it. I said hello to her and she turned her gaze to me. I couldn't see her face very well, but from what I think I saw, she had no pupils or color in her eyes. She just stared at me. After a while, I asked if she was okay. She didn't respond again and simply pointed at the road. I was really confused and didn't know what to think. Right then, a red car was coming down the road and she stepped right out in front of it. I was horrified. The car slammed into her and it was a bloody mess. The driver stopped quickly and jumped out. We were both freaking out. He called the police, and as I slowly walked around the car to see the state of the girl, she was gone. Not gone as in dead, gone as in she just wasn't there. The blood on the road was gone too, but not gone from his car. After the police arrived, they didn't believe us and concluded that it was just a big hoax. The blood on the car was brought to investigation only to be found that it was paint. I'm still not sure if what happened was real. It felt so real. My name is Allison. I'm a recent divorcee with a beautiful 4-year-old daughter named Maggie. Getting tired of living with my parents, I'm looking for a place of my own. My career is really starting to take off, and I can now afford to buy a nice house. My daughter and I were looking at a house in town, and we found one that Maggie loved. When I discovered the reason that she liked it so much, I had second thoughts about purchasing it. After looking at a few different houses, the real estate agent showed me a recent listing from owners that were in a hurry to sell, and they were willing to consider any offer. I was excited to take a walk through. The pictures of the house looked really nice, and the price was right. Pulling up to the house, it was a mid-century colonial home with a beautiful flower garden and a big backyard. It was as if somebody pulled this house right out of my dreams. From the moment that I walked in the door, I felt the most warmest welcome feeling. I could already see where I would want to place my favorite chair and my reading lamp. I imagined Maggie playing with her toys in the middle of the floor while I'm enjoying my coffee and a good book on a Saturday morning. As the agent and I moved on, after looking at the kitchen and the bathroom, and were about to head upstairs, I called Maggie to join us, who was still in the living room giggling and laughing about something. We looked at the first bedroom, and I said to Maggie, "This would be the perfect room for you." She was standing next to the bedroom window and looking so cute that I had to pull out my phone and snap a picture. We moved on to the second and third bedroom, and I realized she wasn't with us, but I could hear her giggling from down the hallway. When she joined us again, I asked her, "What's so funny?" "Mommy, I like this house," she said. "Why do you like it?" She said, "It smells like my favorite cookies, the kind Grandma used to make," which surprised me because she hasn't had great-grandma's cookies in over a year since she passed away. I chalked it up to a 4-year-old's imagination. The real estate agent said, "I can see how much you and your daughter love this house. Why don't we go downstairs and crunch some numbers?" As we turned, Maggie calls out, "Hold my hand," and before I could reach out and grab it, she had already skipped off with her hand out, holding nothing but air. As we finished up with the agent, we made our way out to the car. We took one more long look at the house. We were both excited. Maggie began waving her hand goodbye. I asked, "Are you saying goodbye to the house?" "No, I'm waving at the old lady. She told me to call her Grandma. She's in the window." I looked up, and a cold chill went down my spine. There in the window of the house was an old lady looking back at us. I'm deeply terrified by what happened the other night. I had to be up in the early morning hours to work my shift, and I was exhausted when I went to bed around 9:30 p.m. This story takes place sometime after midnight. After I fell asleep, I woke up a few times from having unsettling, creepy dreams. I don't remember the details, but they were unusual and frightening. The real nightmare started when I was waking up. As I started to awaken, I felt like I was suffocating. My heart was beating fast and my chest felt tight. I quickly realized that I couldn't move. I was frozen on my back with my arms by my side, scared as hell. My room was dimly lit by the moonlight shining through the bedroom window. I gazed around the room with my eyes, trying not to panic. When I rolled my eyes to look directly above me, I saw it. Floating above me was a black mass in the shape of a person. My first thought was, I must still be asleep, but I was regaining my ability to move. I slowly clinched the blanket in both hands and began to pull it up to my head while trying to convince myself that this is not real and that I'm an adult. Then I realized this thing was really above me and I'm definitely awake. My heart was racing. I had a really bad feeling and I was terrified. I followed its shadowy outline with my eyes. Its hair jetted out like straw. Its arms were down at its side. Its fingers were really long. It was just hovering above me about 4 feet, looking at me. Then I seen its eyes, green dots. I quickly pulled the covers over my head. I tucked and turned in the fetal position under the blanket, waiting for something to happen. My thoughts were racing. I didn't know what to do as I was trying to catch my breath, whispering, "Go away." I lied crouched under the blankets with my eyes wide open. Whatever it was didn't like me, and I couldn't bring myself to lifting the blankets and have that thing staring me in the face. I've never been this scared in my life. I hope I never see this thing again. My wife and I bought a house in northern Michigan after we had been renting a home for nearly 9 years. It was an old farmhouse with a lot of character but needed some work. The farmer who built the house in the 1940s died sometime in the 1980s. Since then, there had been 7 previous owners before us. I thought that seemed odd at first too. 7 previous owners? But I figured that maybe the other owners ran out of money to fix it up. I never asked the real estate agent about it because it seemed obvious to me since there were so many projects that were started but never finished. The kitchen looked to be under construction when we moved in, along with the garage restoration that looked to be just started as well. Anyways, we were ready to be committed to put in the time and money in order to make this our family home with our 2 children. When we started the first fix-up project, the wood staircase to the 2nd floor, strange things began to happen. Strange things that had no logical explanation. It was late afternoon and time for dinner. My wife, who had been planting flowers next to the house, stood up and took off her gardening gloves and started walking around the house to let our children know that it was time to eat. She spotted the children walking to a patch of woods that sits surrounded by the farm field. She yelled out to the children and they turned their heads and came running for dinner. Our children, Nick and Sam, are 10-year-old twins. During dinner, I made a comment to my wife that Nick and Sam are going to be explorers when they grow up because of their curiosity of the wooded patch in the farm field. My wife asked the children in her pirate voice, "Were you looking for buried treasure?" Our son Nick replied, "You called us out there, Mommy." Lowering her fork from her mouth, tapping down onto her plate, my wife said, "Whatever do you mean?" Sam then says, "You were standing out there waving at us to come out." My wife told the children to never go out there again, not even if she was out there, and she made them promise. Later, while my wife and I were clearing the dinner table, taking the plates to the kitchen, she said to me in a shaking voice, "I wasn't out at that patch of woods. John, I've never been out there." There I was, in the cabinet under the kitchen sink, fixing a leak. I could hear my wife walking around the kitchen, opening and closing the cupboards, putting things away. I asked her if she could hand me the wrench from on top of the counter as I held out my hand from under the sink. I heard her stop opening and closing the cupboards to hand me the wrench. So while I'm waiting for her to hand me the wrench, I got a little impatient and sarcastically said to her, "Sometime today, please." She missed my hand with the pipe wrench and it dropped on my leg. I shouted, "Ouch! Can you be a little bit more careful?" When I finished and crawled out from under the sink, about 20 minutes later, my wife walked in and set her purse and the car keys down on the table and excitingly asked, "Is it all fixed?" I replied while touching my leg, "Yeah, but my leg still hurts from you dropping the wrench on me." She then said to me, "The kids and I just got back from Grandma's house. We've been gone all afternoon." It all came to a head one night when the kids came running into our bedroom claiming they had seen an old man walking in the room, and then he flew out the window. I could tell they weren't playing games because they were shaking scared. I immediately instructed everyone to get in the car, telling them that we had to leave and leave right now. I knew it was time. We all hurried to the car and drove away. I now know why there were so many unfinished projects in the house.